Do you enjoy going outside and trying to connect with the phenomenon? Well, join us on May 16th for a Skywatch event in Nunn, Colorado, where you can join a group of like-minded people, connect with the higher intelligence, and also see live psychic demonstrations by the 2025 Psy Games champion Ryan Davian. This is an event you don't want to miss. Please send an email if you're interested and we will send you the details. Hope to see you there. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Lights Over Loveland. My name is Justin, and today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that the conscious community talks about a lot, but the mainstream kind of brushes off as woo-woo. We're talking about telepathy, the ether, the cosmic library, and why the next great leap in human communication probably won't come from a microchip, but from an upgrade to our own biological software. My goal with this platform is to help facilitate this shift, to get us out of the old materialist paradigm and into a broader understanding of what we are truly capable of. The mainstream is stuck right now, waiting for a piece of hardware to prove that the non-physical exists. But the truth is, the foundation for this shift is already rooted in science. We just have to know how to look at it. So let's get into it. Real quick, before we get into this video, I just want to say a couple ways you can help support Lights Over Loveland and everything I'm doing. So first, I have a free Discord that's open for anyone who would like to join a like-minded community of people where we can talk about our experiences, the phenomenon, meditation, the crazy awakening that we're all going through, and things like that. If that's something you're interested in, check out the links down below. Next, I have a Patreon where I have a free tier and a tier that's $5 a month. And if you join the $5 a month tier called the Light Keepers, you will gain access to my videos early and you will get some behind the scenes content. Massive shout out to my paid Patreon members. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate all of your help in helping me be able to grow this channel and be able to bring better content to everyone. Lastly, I have a merch store where you can check out all kinds of different designs, hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs. So if that's something you're interested in, those sales go directly to supporting me to help be able to buy new camera equipment, go to events such as the Psy Games where I will be going this year, and get to connect with fellow experiencers, hear new stories, and be able to hopefully document more of this incredible phenomenon that's out there. So thank you so much for checking out my stuff, and let's get into this video. When people think about communicating with non-physical intelligences or tapping into the universal knowledge base like the Akashic Records, the first instinct is to ask, can we build a machine for that? We love our technology. We want a device that we can hold in our hand that translates the ether into a digital readout. But science has a massive roadblock here, known in philosophy and neuroscience as the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. We don't actually know how physical matter in the brain creates a subjective inner experience. Current neurotechnology, like brain-computer interfaces, just read electrical signals. They are reading biological hardware. They aren't reading the actual consciousness software itself. They can tell you when a neuron fires, but they can't tell you what it feels like to be the person who's experiencing the thought. This is where theoretical physics steps in. Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed a theory called Orch-OR, also known as orchestrated objective reduction. They suggest that consciousness doesn't just happen because neurons are firing back and forth. Instead, they propose that consciousness operates on a quantum level inside tiny structures in our brain cells called microtubules. Think about what this means. If consciousness is a quantum field, then you don't need to build a new external radio to connect to the non-physical. The human body is the quantum receiver. We are walking, breathing biological quantum computers. We don't need a new device. We just need to learn how to tune our internal dial to the correct frequency. So what does a perfectly tuned receiver look like? It might look quite different from what society expects. If you've listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast, you've heard the incredible accounts of nonverbal, autistic individuals demonstrating real, documentable telepathic communication. For a long time, the mainstream medical and psychological fields have viewed being nonverbal as strictly as a limitation, a deficit. But what if we completely flip that perspective? Think about how much mental bandwidth verbal communication requires. We have a thought, a pure concept, and then we have to frantically search for the right localized physical words to describe it. We push this multi-dimensional concept through a tiny funnel of vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. It's incredibly noisy. Without that constant rigid filter of trying to squeeze concepts into words, neurodivergent minds might naturally be tuned to a much broader, clearer frequency. The signal isn't getting choked by the physical demands of speech. They aren't lacking communication skills. They just might be operating on an upgraded channel that the rest of humanity has either forgotten how to use or hasn't evolved into yet. They are showing us the next step in human potential. This brings us to a massive realization about how we actually operate these biological receivers. We are so conditioned by the physical world to think that to achieve something, we have to force it. We have to try harder, focus harder, build a bigger machine. But anyone who has seriously practiced consciousness protocols, or even just practiced manifestation in their own life, knows that forcing is the quickest way to shut down that communication. When you try to force a connection, it actually creates resistance. The true secret to this, and this is how all successful manifestations seem to work, is the exact opposite. You have to let go. When you quiet the internal dialogue, drop your rigid expectations of what the communication is supposed to look like, and simply let go of the outcome, you remove the static. You stop trying to broadcast a noisy verbal signal and instead open yourself up as a pure receiver. The quantum field doesn't respond to force. It responds to resonance. Which brings us to the most important part of this episode. How do we wake up the rest of the world to this? The mainstream is stuck, but the growth of this awakening is exponential. When one person opens up, they can now open up others. And this isn't just a spiritual idea. It's a proven mechanism across multiple scientific disciplines. Let's look at physics. There's a phenomenon called entrainment. If you take a dozen metronomes, start them all at completely random, chaotic times, and set them on a movable surface like a suspended board, an amazing thing happens. Within minutes, the subtle energetic transfer between them causes every single metronome to synchronize. They will all tick in perfect unison. The most coherent, stable frequency naturally pulls the erratic ones into alignment. When you do the work to hold a high coherent frequency of consciousness, you are that stable metronome. You literally pull the people around you into that same resonance. In biology, it mirrors Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance. This is the idea that nature has a collective memory. Once a species learns a new behavior, or in our case, once enough humans learn to access this expanded telepathic state, a blueprint is created in the morphic field, making it infinitely easier for every other human to access it. It's often referred to as the 100th monkey effect. And in sociology, we know exactly how this plays out. It's called the tipping point. Social scientists have proved that you don't need 51% of a population to change the world. It only takes a committed, coherent minority, usually estimated to be between 10 and 25%, to trigger a massive social shift. Once that critical mass is hit, the rest of the collective rapidly and naturally adopts the new paradigm. Growth is slow at first, but then it goes completely vertical. That is exactly why we're doing this, why we talk about these concepts, why we gather under the night sky, and why we practice these protocols together. We are acting as the tuning forks for the rest of humanity. We don't need to convince the whole world at once, and we don't need a piece of technology to do it for us. We just need enough of us to resonate loudly enough that the rest of the collective naturally entrain to that higher frequency. Okay, now that we kind of covered the science behind the woo-woo and why I think this is something that could happen rapidly and exponentially, and human potential in general can just be this exponential growth. I believe that these psychic abilities, whether you believe them or not, you're on your own journey, but for me, these are real. I've seen them. I know this is real. I've had my own experiences, and I also believe that the phenomenon communicates telepathically as well, which ties into all the psychic stuff. So I want to point out to people that I think this is something that can be spread from person to person. I think that I can have an experience and have this ability turned on or unlocked in myself, and then I'm able to use this ability with other people and open their minds and unlock that potential inside themselves, so then they are able to learn this skill. And the crazy thing is, it is much easier for the second person to learn the skill. The first person, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. The second person just needs to know that it's possible. As soon as they can see another person demonstrating this ability, it becomes so much easier for the second person to learn how to do this. You can look at things such as the 4-minute mile. When the first person completed that, all of a sudden, multiple people were able to do that. But before then, no one was able to do it until someone saw it was possible for everyone. And that's how I feel a lot of this stuff is. The hardest part about the awakening process is just being at that stage where you believe something, but the rest of the population doesn't yet. And like I said, scientifically, it's proven that sound resonates. Well, if you look all the way down at the smallest scale of reality that we understand right now, they did this experiment called the double slit experiment. And basically, all light exists as a waveform. So we are all just light waveforms being collapsed into these physical forms. When you are in that potential state, when you haven't been collapsed into a form yet, the possibilities are infinite. I think that's what disclosure really doesn't want us to get into. You have documents such as the declassified gateway documents that I have done some research on. I've written a paper about it actually for one of my classes. And basically what comes down to is I believe our government, our military, learned back in probably the 60s and 70s that we are all capable of these incredible, amazing things. And the number one thing is we are all creating our own reality. This is why manifestation is possible. This is why the placebo effect exists, all these different things, because all it takes is for you to truly believe that something is possible, and then reality will start shifting to that path to make that a possibility for you. Could also be another way this whole disclosure thing works out. This is a fun theory, and it's the theory that maybe once enough of us believe in a certain thing, then that thing will become real and show up, such as the orbs in the sky. All it takes is enough people to believe that it's possible, and then we might be materializing them into the sky. Or it could be a non-human intelligence that's out there that we are connected to through consciousness, because consciousness is connected to everything. The whole reason this reality exists is because you are here consciously to perceive it. There's been a lot of people bashing all the psychic stuff. And to me, I think this is one of the most important things in human evolution that can possibly be going on right now.
But I am aware of briefings that have been given to a number of members, including, I think, the House Majority Leader, Scalise, where essentially they've been told that, yes, the intelligence community has verified psionic summoning, inviting, that this talk of psychical abilities in the human mind to invite the phenomenon are true, are real. In fact, this is what I was referring to in my previous commentary with Admiral Tim Gallaudet. There are the most extraordinary admissions coming out of Congress right now, where you have people like Eric Burleson, Representative Tim Burchett. They're admitting they are being given briefings, classified briefings in skiffs by members, representatives of the intelligence and defence community about classified issues relating to UAPs. So I think that's really significant, and I think it's also incredibly significant that this has gone largely unreported in the broader community of the legacy news media.
And I recently caught a clip of Jesse Michaels actually talking negative about Dahlia Burgoyne and her mine site, which I thought was kind of out of left field, and I was a bit surprised. And Jesse's talking about the clip on Danny Jones where she goes and does mine site.
Coming back into vogue, like you have the telepathy tapes top the podcast charts in the entire country.
Yeah.
And part of me thinks it's a beautiful, amazing thing. And obviously, in my opinion, I don't think it's all a psyop. I think that some of these autistic nonverbal children are actually, they do have really amazing abilities. It's unfortunate that some of them, like this woman that went on Danny Jones, I think are actually faking things. This is the mother of one of the kids, and she clearly was peeking past this blindfold, which is it's just so sad, and what a poor representation of, you know, again, what I think is an underlying real phenomena. But does it make you ask questions around why is all of this stuff coming back into vogue?
And if you watch the podcast, you clearly watch Dahlia put multiple patches on her eyes, then a mask on. And Jesse was trying to say that she's clearly trying to peek. So I don't know where this is coming from, but I just want people to understand that if you're skeptical or whatever, fine, but open your mind. And I think really Jesse kind of overlooked something, and the clip that was shared, you can clearly see the blue patches on Dahlia's face underneath the mask that she's wearing. So I don't know what that's about, but there's already so much stigma and criticism about all this psychic stuff that really the last thing we need is a major influencer who I really respect, honestly, coming out and saying things like this. I really wish he would have Dahlia on his podcast if he is that concerned about it. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with all of that or the skepticism, but to me, these things are real. I've seen multiple people be able to demonstrate this ability to me live and in person now, to the point where there's no doubt. It's the same as when I experienced that triangle formation in the sky. And it just comes from personal experience. You gonna need to have a personal experience to fully change that knowing within you. I understand that I'm just a dude on the internet, and no matter whatever story or whatever I say is not going to change what you believe about reality. All I'm trying to do is give you a different lens to look at it and open up to a new potential. I don't know what's going on for real. I'm trying to figure it out, but I have no idea. But all I know is if you start shutting off possibilities, you're closing yourself off to potentially the correct thing. Like, we don't know what's going on. So how can you say it's anything definitively? We have no idea. All we can do is talk about our personal experiences and what we felt and experienced through those. And like for me, the orb phenomenon, I've experienced nothing but loving energy. Sometimes it's been a bit intense just when I've gotten overwhelmed and realized that, you know, they're expanding your consciousness. They're slowly waking you up. I've been slowly introduced over 2.5 years from seeing just a couple orbs a night to the point where I can see over 100 in a single night out skywatching. But if I would have seen that 100 right in the beginning, that could have been, you know, like sensory nervous system overload and caused me to freak out. which is something that does happen. When I saw the triangle formation, my body was definitely going into that nervous system overload and that fight or flight mode, because we're just dealing with something that is so much of a higher vibration, frequency, energy than we are, that it's just a natural response by our body. So all we can do is talk about our personal experiences. I have experienced nothing but unconditional love, and if you know how I connect, I literally go outside and say the equivalent of a prayer, basically. I go through everything I'm grateful for. There's no religious context to it. I'm not religious at all. I'm spiritual, and I'm just trying to connect with that inner essence of me. And if you caught my latest podcast episode with John, also known as Orbs by Thought, he said something on that episode that was very important in connecting with the phenomenon that could easily get overlooked. And he said he went from the state of mind of trying to externally connect to something and went within and started seeking connection. And that's when he had these profound connections. And that's something that I've also experienced. This is a phenomenon that pushes you inward. It's not pushing me out into outer space trying to look at all these different planets. It literally pushed me into learning about meditation, consciousness, how to get into these deep meditative states, how to connect with the universal field of consciousness. It's about letting go of your daily signal and tapping into the collective signal that's always around us. It's about silencing your own inner noise, opening your heart and just letting whatever is going to come to you in a loving way. And I do ask for protection from lower level beings or things like that. You can ask for protection. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you believe that there are negative entities out there, which, I mean, all you have to do is kind of look at the evil things going on in this world. And to me, when people say I'm connecting with demons, I think it's hilarious, and I'm literally praying to God, but I can see the demonic forces running this world right now. And you want to say that these beautiful things that experiencers are connecting with is demonic, yet you're listening to all these different news sources who are pushing fear, war, greed, corruption, and keeping the human race stuck instead of progressing to become that more advanced species, that conscious evolution that I can see us achieving. But it takes us taking the steps towards it. It's not something that's just going to unfold for us. And that's another reason why I think the orb phenomenon is here. It's to wake us up, to start making us do that work. They can't do it for us, because I think if you listen to the Book of Enoch or things like that, in the past, these things were done. And that's when all the chaos unfolded. So they have to have a hands-off approach, and they can help guide us, but they can't do the work for us. We have to do it. We have to evolve past the fighting and killing. And if you think about it logically, if any intelligence, species, whatever it be, physical, non-physical, was going to evolve to the point of space travel or traveling through dimensions and all these different kinds of things, you would think they would do it through that highest vibration of love. To me, listening to the telepathy tapes, the children have talked about you don't get the kinds of gifts that they have by being a liar or a bad person. I think evolution comes through love and pushing each other up. So I don't understand the fear narrative. I don't see why they think that these beings are here to harm us or take over. Like I said, they have had all the opportunity to do so since the 1940s. They haven't done it. So to me, that just feels like fear and propaganda being spread to keep us stuck, to keep us from figuring out those true potentials. And like I said, the biggest one is that we are creating our own reality. I think the beings are really trying to wake us up to that and make us realize that we've kind of been trapped, stuck inside our own prison that we've created for ourselves through the violence, fear, killing, all of that. And kind of feels like they're trying to wake us up to the fact that humanity's lost its way and we can be such a better species. We could live in harmony with this beautiful planet that we live on, that we are also a part of. And that's another thing through this whole process. I have such a greater connection to all the living things, the planet included. If you don't think the planet has its own consciousness and its own systems and cycles that we are very much a part of, then you're silly. At some point, we can get so out of tune with the planet that we'll become obsolete. So I think it's in our best interest to do everything we can possible to stop fighting, come together, literally as a species, as the human race, and try to work towards trying to understand these big questions. Stop the fighting. Let's really try to understand consciousness and where it comes from, how it is working with our bodies. Because through this experience, I've come to the belief that consciousness is non-local. It is not created in the brain. The brain is a receiver that is picking up a conscious signal that is being broadcast to us, which makes sense if you believe in reincarnation or anything like that. This is just a physical vessel to experience this life and learn the lessons I need to right now as Justin. But I'm going to take these lessons with me in my non-physical form for all of eternity, because in our true forms, we are eternal. There is no fighting. There is no violence. It's all love on the other side is what I believe. I think all you have to do is listen to near-death experiencers and go through all of their stories where they have a life review, where their family members are there and they're told they're always being guided, they're always being watched over. And then they're shown every experience through their life and how it impacted others and made them feel, and how those decisions branched off to change all these different people. And they're also shown visions of their future sometimes, which then goes to show is our future predetermined. So you get into these major questions that I think we could be studying a lot better scientifically than we currently are. We stigmatize them all and push them all into these categories of science that you're a crazy person if you look at, and you're going to have all your credentials stripped away. Meanwhile, the literal gold is sitting right there in the trash can that society doesn't want to look at. So I challenge everyone to open your mind. This has so much more to do with than just some lights in the sky, or seeing through a blindfold, or communicating telepathically. This literally has to do with the human race, our next evolution, and how we can progress as a species to evolve to the point where we don't need to do all the things we are now. I think we can evolve past combustion engines. I think we can move past the power sources we're using now if we can admit that we're wrong. We don't fully understand these concepts and science and physics. And it's okay to look outside the box and try to understand these concepts through a different lens. There's been so many times throughout history where we thought we had it all figured out. We thought everything revolved around the earth, and we killed people who said otherwise. We have to be humble we have to admit we don't know everything, and that's okay. But you can't learn what you don't know unless you're willing to look in new places. So I think that's probably all I got for this video, but I really just want to show people that, you know, this isn't about just connecting with the phenomenon in the sky. This is really about looking within and realizing your highest potential, trying to align yourself with the highest path you can be on, and how different things you do influence where you're at. Your thoughts create your reality. So if you're having negative thoughts about yourself or the people around you, look to see what's being projected back to you. On the other hand, try to be grateful for everyone around you and everything you have in your life. And I guarantee you're going to see life is so much more beautiful than you thought before, because that's what happened to me. So thank you so much for being here. I hope this video resonated with someone out there. And if I can just get one person's mind to be like, maybe he is right, maybe I should research into this a little bit, then this is a success, and it's why I do this. Thank you for tuning into this video. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who might be on that same frequency. Keep your eyes to the sky, keep your mind open wide, and remember to just let go.